Robin Hood Radio presents Stage Right or Not with Michele Willens. Michele is a longtime journalist and herself is a published playwright of several theatrical works. She's a frequent contributor to the Huffington Post, Daily Beast, and the Atlantic websites.
So as summer begins, we are starting to see the repercussions of the Tony Awards. 4 shows that did not take home trophies or receive positive word of mouth, including mine. Gary, the sequel to Titus and Andronicus, Hillary and Clinton, The Prom, and King Lear have shut down ahead of schedule. Who's next? Well, keep an eye on Be More Chill, which should have been more memorable. Meanwhile, a few new Broadway productions are opening, including the theatrical version of the film Moulin Rouge, but the big buzz is for a show from London called Inheritance, which will be hitting our shores end of summer. This one has won a lot of awards over there. It is comprised of 2 parts and seems somewhat similar to Angels in America in both theme and scope. As for now, much of the action is off-Broadway. Now, I happened to catch 4 of these recently, and while they might not be appointment theater, it is usually interesting to listen to new, or not so new, but perhaps forgotten voices. Well, let's start with one of those. Now, as I always say with the highly unique Mint Theater Company, the stories behind the writers are often more dramatic than what is on stage, not to mention adding context to the content. Well, such is the case with Mint's latest production called The Mountains Look Different, written by one Michele MacLemoire. Well, hold that name for a minute, which I am sure, by the way, that I mispronounced. Playing at Theatre Row on 42nd Street, the story takes place on a farm in West Ireland in the 40s. It was written in 1948, and it deals with a young man bringing his fiancée back to hopefully get the blessing of his father. Well, considering the dad recalls the young woman when she was a poverty-stricken lady of the evening in London, that is unlikely to happen. The play was panned, considered immoral when it first premiered. The Irish claimed there had been no prostitutes among their folks at that time in that place. Well, it all seems pretty tame now, and in fact rather slow and stolid. The little mystery in the play is solved pretty early, though things get much more watchable in the second act. At one point there were 9 actors on stage, 2 dead ducks, and a jig, and I thought, this could be the poor long-lost cousin of the ferryman. Alas, no. But it becomes somehow more moving when you read the real-life story of the author. He was not only a writer, but an actor, famed for a one-man show about Oscar Wilde. And he formed a theater company called The Gate. Now, that quickly became the most important place for Irish theater and helped start the careers of playwrights like Brian Friel and performers including Orson Welles and James Mason. And when MacLemoire met a man named Hilton Edwards, he came out of the closet, which was professionally risky at that time. It must be very queer. It must be a very queer thing to be a man, says one character in this show. And it felt strangely sad. But the biggest punchline of MacLemoire's life came in 1990 when a biography of him was published. And it was revealed that he was, in fact, born one Alfred Wilmore and was British. Well, my suggestion, someone do a play about that man of 2 very different personas. Now, while we were on that side of the continent, 59 East 59 Theaters is presenting Julie Madly Deeply, a mostly one-woman cabaret telling the life and career of the vatty English Julie Andrews. The show was written and performed by Sarah Louise Young, clearly the biggest Andrews fan in the world. When she was a little girl, she wrote the star a letter begging her to marry Sarah's father. Young is a good enough singer. Hey, there's only one Julie Andrews. And very funny and endearing. This is not quite a sing-along, but it might help to work on your favorite things. Could have danced all night and spoonful of sugar cred before going. I surprised myself in remembering every damn syllable of supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. You do end up learning about Julie Andrews' eventful life and her career choices. God bless anyone who not only made the movie The Americanization of Emily, one of my favorites, but who remembers that movie. Obviously, this is a show primarily for Julie Andrews fans, but also for those who may just want a 90-minute musical respite from all the dark and divisive stuff going on outside. And then we move to the newish and nifty ART New York theater space in the West 50s. That is where Rob Ackerman's dramedy called Dropping Gumballs on Luke Wilson is playing. Now, this is Ackerman's memory tale of when he worked on a TV commercial. The director of the play is likely the most recognizable name here. She is a prolific writer, Teresa Rebeck. And she does a nice job moving her very good 6 actors around. No, Luke Wilson is not in this, but you do a double take because Jonathan Sale looks a lot like him. Another actor, David Wall, plays the director of the TV ad, who just happened to be Oscar-winning documentary maker Errol Morris. Well, let's hope Morris will never see this play. I tell the truth, even in an ATT commercial, he barks with haughty fervor and incessant cruelty. There is some message behind this madness. We can't afford to care, says one employee, when another dares to wonder how they can support a corporate giant. Well, it's a unique piece, obviously not one that will appeal to everyone, but there were many appreciative audience members laughing uproariously. It's always a good sign. By the way, the same thing happened when I saw The Great Novel, which is playing at the Flea Theater in Tribeca. Now, this one didn't work for me, though I admired most of the cast, and the writer, Amina Henry, offers some insightful lines about class and race. But the characters, especially the entitled older daughter, can wear you out. It's difficult here to tell how old these people are, or if they are even still alive in one case, not to mention why they are in powdered white face. Well, except for the 3 African-American characters, that is. We do finally get that this is an upper-class New York family interacting with their longtime African-American housekeeper. It is her secret, well, until it isn't, to write a book one day. Well, I hope it's a great novel, because this is not a great play. But I could see it being developed more fully, and I always appreciate the Flea for stretching and challenging. So that's my quirky quartet for the week, and now I am heading to the Deep South for a trip about civil rights history, though as we know, the issues feel very contemporary. I'll be doing some reporting from there. It may not be legitimate theater, Jill, but I expect to find plenty of drama.
Do you also expect to find To Kill a Mockingbird somewhere?
Well, wouldn't that be interesting? I am going to Alabama. What was her little town? Started with an M, Harper Lee. I know I'm going to Selma and Birmingham. That's a good point. I'm going to check that out.
I am still it's almost at this point of fixation, but I'm always interested in what's being performed where, and I do just given the whole silliness of the initial block on it.
Yes, exactly. Actually, I'm going to, in all the towns I'm going to, one of the first things I will do is check out what theater is going on there anyway. I'm curious, what kind of theater they have in Selma and Birmingham and Jackson, Mississippi.
And then what you find out, or at least it has invariably been my experience, haven't done this for a while, but go out there, and it's nothing like you expected.
I'm sure.
And it's far more lively and, let's say, evolved than you expected. Because what happens is one gets very used to where they are, and for years and years and years, human beings just never cease to amaze with their insularity. In the end, that seems to just be the default wiring.
Absolutely, and it's why I'm most interested in going. They have more famous museums now, I think, than any place in the country, and I include this city. I mean, they've got this new Civil Rights Museum. It's supposed to be incredible. They've got a World War II museum, relatively new in New Orleans, which I'm going to spend 2 days visiting. It's just endless, those kinds of things. But yeah, I'm just interested in seeing. We know about the great music. That's not going to be a surprise, especially in Memphis. But yeah, I'm interested, and I will ask about To Kill a Mockingbird. And I want to talk, what the kids are reading there. What is their take on that? But yeah, and I expect to meet people who didn't vote like I voted, who may not have voted. I don't know. But you know me. I'm always asking questions.
Stage Right or Not with Michele Willens, produced in the studios of Robin Hood Radio, robinhoodradio.com.